In the United Kingdom, the Vice-President of Venezuela, Delcy Rodríguez, denounced before the International Maritime Organization that the unilateral coercive measures and the blockade of Venezuelan vessels affect international trade. The Venezuelan Executive Vice President met in London with the Secretary General of the International Maritime Organization, Arsenio Domínguez Velasco, where she stated that 39 vessels of the state-owned Petróleos de Venezuela and 30 of international trade are illegitimately sanctioned. Rodríguez pointed out that this is the fourth country in the world in terms of the number of sanctioned vessels.
And particularly as Venezuela, I express our concern that the entire fleet of ships and vessels that PDVSA has are illegitimately sanctioned. They are blockaded. Not only 39 PDVSA vessels, but also 30 international trade vessels that have been sanctioned. As you know, within this terrible policy of economic aggression against Venezuela, we are the fourth country with the highest number of blockade ships in the world. It is really an embarrassing situation, and that's why we insist. President Nicolás Maduro, with great courage, with great firmness, calling for the cessation of this illegal and illegitimate blockade that has become a true economic genocide against the Venezuelan.
Executive Vice President Delcy Rodríguez explains the sanctions recognized by the United Nations system and expresses her concern about the global climate emergency.
The international organizations are really helpless in the face of a blockade which violates international law, because the only sanctions recognized by the United Nations systems are the sanctions issued by the Security Council. From a country unilaterally, extraterritorially, obviously does not exist within the framework of the law and the regulations, but we talk. We express our concern about this situation. Similarly, a very important issue that has to do with the global climate emergency, as Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called it. It is not longer an issue of climate crisis. We are in a real climate emergency.
Venezuela's Executive Vice President also analyzes the essential United Nations issues addressed at the meeting, such as the paralysis of transportation and trade in the Panama Canal and the impact on the economy.
The whole issue of greenhouse gas emissions from international shipping is a very essential issue that this organization is addressing. We are talking about something that affects us in particular, that has to do with the transport and trade that goes through the Panama Canal. You know that impacted by the effect of the El Niño, transportation through the Panama Canal has been reduced practically by 30%.
Also, the Vice President of Venezuela, Delcy Rodríguez, reiterated that the blockade against the economy and oil production has caused losses of more than $640 billion US.
Well, you know that the president, in his annual message to the nation, gave some really scary numbers. In terms of oil production from 2015 to 2022, we lost almost 4 billion barrels, the equivalent of $323 billion. Now, as each currency that enters the economy also impacts the currency coming from the oil industry, it impacts the gross domestic production of Venezuela by $642 billion. We are not incorporating the year 2023. So, well, the denunciation, the affectation to Venezuela has been an economic genocide against the people. It has caused social wounds. It has caused an impact on health, on education, and always from there, the plans of defense of the Venezuelan people.
Vice President Delcy Rodríguez assured that the international community has called for an end to the blockade against Venezuela, a fact that also impacts in the regional economy.
But the blockade has also had an impact on the international economy. For example, the PetroCaribe program. Let's look at the situation that Haiti is going through as a result of the suspension of the important benefits, the positive impact that the PetroCaribe program had for the Caribbean countries. At the international level, we said last year, at the European Union summit, countries of the European Union that had a share in Venezuela's oil production were also impacted. Well, the United States in North America, so the international so-called voices have been praised at the international level. The President of Mexico, the President of Colombia, the President of Brazil. The call has been to cease the blockade against Venezuela. It must stop. It is a right of the Venezuelan people. It is a right of Venezuela as a sovereign nation, but also the international community has added its voice in favor of the end of the blockade against the country.
The Venezuelan Vice President also said that in her conversation with the authorities of the International Maritime Organization, she addressed the issue of environmental care in the area in front of Guyana in the Essequibo, taking into account that it is a disputed area.
Yes, I address it obviously because of the ships that are taking crude oil out of Venezuela, commercializing it in an area that is pending the delimited of environmental impact as well. The environmental issue is a very sensitive issue for the International Maritime Organization that has concrete plans to address it. Well, they also participate recently, as I talked to the Secretary General, in the last climate change summit held in the United Arab Emirates. It is a very concrete issue. It is an issue that has to do with the reduction of greenhouse gases and all the rethinking that would have to be thought about, right? How geopolitics is also intervening with the international maritime transport, the rethinking of routes that can have a real impact on the climate emergency.